We're talking pocket listings today. Good afternoon. Have you guys ever heard of a pocket listing? I had not. I've been in business for quite a while now. I had my brokerage for quite some time, and I had not heard about a pocket listing up until about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe longer. Boy, time flies. But I had never heard of one. We called them whisper listings at one point in time. I'm going with pocket listings for today. They could be called exclusive listings. But I wanted to go through them with you because what I think is fascinating on this is we have the real estate brokerage. That's an industry. Okay, so there's hundreds of thousands of real estate brokerages. And then there's, your franchise brokerages and your independent brokerages. Okay. And then you have this is an argument within that group. Okay. This is a huge argument within that group. The consumer isn't really in the discussion with the rise of pocket listings. It's not what's the best for the consumer. And when you look at what causes people to click, pocket listings, things of that nature, when you in the real estate industry, if you see news about it, you tend to click on it. It's like it's almost like clickbait for realtors and brokerages. So I wanted to go over it. This is not the most expansive discussion about pocket listings that you're going to get, and this is my opinion. Everyone's free to have their own. If you're a real estate agent and you're just killing it with pocket listings, or your brokerage and you think it's the greatest thing ever, then good. I'm okay with that. And if you're like me and don't particularly like the idea of pocket listings, then that's okay too. I don't want anybody to think that I'm gonna rip apart something that's part of our industry. I don't know how you're gonna get rid of it. I know that we've made strides. So let me get to it. We're gonna go with the screen share today. And the article says, competition is getting nasty. Rise in private home listings benefit brokerages, hurts buyers and sellers. So right off the bat, we have this idea that the brokerages, like I said, it's helpful for the brokerages and not for the consumer. Would I make it as easy as hurts, benefits and hurts? I don't know. This is a very well-written article. I don't know if the person is in real estate or if they just have done a lot of research, but they did write a very, very strong article in the Washington Post. So it starts off with, it's hard to find a house. And then it goes into the pocket listings. And the first fellow says, we've seen an increase in the number of office exclusives, which is a pocket listing, and I'm not a fan of them from the consumer perspective. And that's true. It says, the reality is we have a dramatic shortfall of supply of homes and an overabundance of demand, so an agent or company may have more buyers to look at off MLS properties than in a normal market. And I think that's true. The market exploded in the past year during Corona. I mean, there's no question. I mean, it just went up and up and up and up. And we talk about there's all kinds of reasons. But when the market is terrible, are there still going to be this many pocket listings? I think it's kind of a fad. I do think that. So then it goes in and says, how is it a benefit to the brokerage? But one of the stories I wanted you to see in this article, it said that recently one party asked for their home to be private listed. They quickly received a full price offer, but their listing agent also asked if they would want to list it publicly to see what other offers could happen. And the property sold for $130,000 over the listing price within a few days. Maximum exposure on the market is likely to gain the highest priced and fastest sale for sellers, as well as offer access to all qualified buyers, not a select few. Then they talk about how they have been tracking private listings, and it's very hard to do. They say it's going up, but I don't know. Though definitely the talk about it goes up. And then some of the reasons they talk about why the pocket listings might be a bad thing. And then at the end of the article, it's about how one real estate brokerage that's gone national is kind of doing their best to market the pocket listings. And, that's the article. I will leave a link to the article in the description below. But I kind of want to just have, a spot to say what I think about the listings and just go over it in a fashion that makes more sense to me. It's kind of a complex article. So number one, the pocket listing or the exclusive listing or private listing or a whisper listing, those are the same things, for the most part. It's a home that is for sale but not marketed through cooperation with other brokerages. They're exclusive to the brokerage that has that listing. So let's just say I go out and I say, some seller calls me and says, hey, would you list my house for sale? I say, yes. They say, oh, by the way, we don't want anybody to know it's for sale. We don't want to cooperate with any other brokerage. We don't want it on the MLS. We don't want anything. I say, okay. So we have to sign this piece of paper that says, you know what you're doing. And then you can go from there. So then I can tell people in my office, hey, there's a house for sale. So if there's buyers in my office, I say, hey, there's a house for sale. And so that's a pocket listing. Now, somebody in another office doesn't know that house is for sale. You're limiting the amount of people that know that the house is available on the market. That's what it is. A rise in pocket listings would be really hard to quantify. The article mentions a methodology that is used, and it does show an increase, but this might be confirmation bias. We certainly know that the term pocket listing has risen in popularity over the past few years within the industry. So I know, like I said, 5-6 years ago, I didn't hear it at all, and now I hear it all the time. But I wanted to go over some of the questions that maybe you might have, and that is, one, why would a seller want to list their home as a pocket listing? And it's said that it provides some shield from potentially embarrassing issues, such as a divorce, murder, bankruptcy, and some level of security. So, for instance, a movie star may not want a bunch of people going through their house. And I'll get to that a little bit later as to what the motivation might be. But that's just kind of how they set it up as the pocket listing. Now, who would mainly benefit from this arrangement? Well, real estate brokerages. They can advertise to buyers that they have homes available for sale no one else does, an exclusive listing. And then B, they will typically get both sides of the commission on the sale, the buyer and the seller. Now, the brokerage will get both sides of the deal, okay? But that doesn't mean that the agent will get both sides of the deal. So you could have two agents in the same office working on this particular property, one representing the seller, one representing the buyer, okay? They get their commission, and then the brokerage gets a cut out of both sides of that. That's where they're talking about both sides of the commission. They're not necessarily talking about a dual agency situation where the buyer's agent and the seller's agent are the same person. So you can get some, if you have the right agent with the right ethics, you can get some sort of a good professional outcome. It's possible. But then what are some of the negatives about this arrangement? And these are the things that I think. One, discrimination. And it's the number one reason why we don't take pocket listings at Deerwood Realty. When you can determine who buys a house and who doesn't, you can determine who sees the house for sale and who doesn't, and that's a problem. And I can think of two ways that discrimination could occur. One, underrepresented groups never even get the opportunity to see a home that is for sale in a particular neighborhood. And two, should they write an offer, who is to say that the seller can't just say no or ask for a higher selling price solely because of the characteristics of that buyer? And while I wish that wouldn't happen, I'm sure it does. And so I don't want to be any part of that. So someone says, hey, John, I want you to do a pocket listing. One, my office is three agents. So, I mean, there's no point. Now, some of these other offices, maybe they have 100 agents in it. Maybe you can get enough foot traffic through there to sell the house. That's great. But I mean, for me, it doesn't make any sense. Why would I risk a charge of discrimination on my brokerage and ruin my reputation and ruin what I've worked for just to hold a pocket listing? It doesn't make any sense. And one of the other negatives is the house, especially in this market, will sell for the highest amount when it's exposed to the most people. Now, some people don't believe that. Some brokers don't believe that. When I was working as an investor, the first thing that they would say to people is hey, you don't want this to go out on the marketplace because you'll have all these people walking through the house and they'll destroy it even more. But they were trying to limit the market. And so that's something to pay attention to. But when you artificially restrict the pool of available buyers, you never know what kind of offers you're going to get. So in this article, a house sold for $130,000 over asking price because it was on the market and after it stopped being restricted. So those are the two reasons that I think those are the two negatives that I see about this arrangement and why I don't really want to be a part of it. If I'm representing the seller, I want them to get the best price possible for their home. And I certainly don't want to have to deal with discrimination or anything like that. I don't want to, that's not a game I want to be involved in. So those are the two negatives that I can think about this arrangement. And so you might be asking, well, if it's that bad, why do sellers do pocket listings? And I came up with two reasons. One, it sounds cool. So if you're so important that you can't just sell your house to anyone, it has to be sold to someone who knew something that everyone else didn't. So we're all in the cool kids club now, and I can say, I sold my house, and nobody knew. And I mean that's maybe a form of virtue signaling. Even is that I'm so great that I need to show you how I sold my house, and it's so different than yours. And then number two, there could be a legitimate exclusivity issue. And as an example, say you're a movie star or a billionaire. You don't want 10,000 people walking through your house. I would counter, though, that on the high-end listings, the listing agent normally is required to be at every showing, and buyers also have to prove that they have the cash to buy. So let's just say I call up, let's say a house in St. Louis is $1 million, okay? Well, we're going out to Chesterfield. That's kind of low. Let's say $3 million, okay? And I have buyers. I say I have a doctor, okay? And I say, hey, I'd like to see this listing. And the buyer's agent or the listing agent is very nice to me. He says, okay, are your buyers qualified? And I say, yes, here's their, I'll have a blank bank statement without their information on it, or I'll have something that shows these buyers are definitely able to buy. And then he says, or he or she, the listing agent says, great, what time would they like to see the house? And they ask that because they're going to be there, and they're going to follow you around, and they're probably going to try and sell the house as you would to these buyers. That's how it's done in the more expensive listings, and I get it. It's fine. Whatever. I would not want 10,000 people through. I mean, with famous people in St. Louis, I don't blame them for doing a pocket listing. But at the same time, there are ways they can get around it, and I think most of them know that. So, why would buyers look at pocket listings? Well, number one, it's pretty cool to buy a house that no one knew was listed. So, all of a sudden, there's one family living somewhere, and now you're living there, and people are like, "What happened?" Say, well, I bought this house on the cheap. And that's the other thing is it's entirely possible that the house is priced to the low side, or a shrewd broker owning both sides of the deal makes it look like that it's a discount versus the open market. But you aren't going to know because no one else had the chance to make an offer on it, or there was limited exposure. So in this case, say they marketed it $100,000 too low. That's definitely not benefiting the seller. I mean, isn't that who you're working for originally? So, I have issues with this concept. And then just some tips, like, are there ways to protect yourself when looking at a pocket listing? If you were looking at a pocket listing, okay, even if you're going to go down that path as a buyer, try to find comparable sales. It's going to be tough because you're represented by a buyer's agent that may or may not be on your side, in the sense that they could be also the listing agent. So you really need to know that up front. Are you working as a dual agent? You can ask them, are you working as a dual agent? And you're probably going to have to sign a piece of paper that says it's okay. And if you are, I would be very nervous about working as a dual agent in a pocket listing. I don't know that would be the best way to. I do dual agency, but I wouldn't do it on a pocket listing. And then if you're a seller, you really have to consider what circumstances a pocket listing could actually benefit you. you already know the more exposure a house, the best chance for a good offer. And limiting the exposure is rarely a great choice. And so, yeah, look at that. Just check in. Like, know that, we don't have to have we don't have to be doing a pocket listing in this market. It's so hot. We're going to do fine on our own. I listed a property last week. I had multiple offers, and it was wonderful for the seller. Okay, and they're going to get much more than they ever thought possible, no matter what. So just look into this. The pocket listings, it's always going to be an argument with the brokerages because it's a way that some of them are using to market exclusive listings. I know it sounds like a sore loser, but I don't particularly want to show a pocket listing for some other office. Why do I want to do that? Doesn't make any sense to me. I'm more than happy to cooperate with my listings. Why don't they cooperate with mine? Or why don't they cooperate with theirs? It's one of those things. So I just wanted you to go over it. Not the most exhaustive pocket listing work, okay? It's just to give you a heads up that this is what's happening, and this is how it works. And if you have any more questions, feel free to call me or put a comment down below. You could subscribe to the channel. Haven't asked for that in a while. Press that subscribe button, and you can get more information like this as time goes on. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.